Are you inside the criminal justice system right now? If you are, my name is Michael Santos. I'm with Prison Professors, and I invite you to work through our courses and programs. Nobody should invest in your future and in your success more than you. Too many people going through the system are always waiting for some magic pill. They may not look at it as a magic pill, but if they've outsourced all decisions to their defense attorney, they are looking for a magic pill. If they've outsourced all decisions expecting the system to change their life, they're looking for a magic pill. If they're waiting for Washington to influence changes in the law or legislators in your state capital to change the law, they're looking for a magic pill. I had to learn to create my own pathway to work through prison. Why? Because when I was initially brought into the system, I faced a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. Now, that seems like a misnomer to say life without the possibility of parole, because ever since 1987 in the federal system, there has been no parole board. But I came into the system right at the time when there was a huge shift in the criminal justice system, and we were moving from one type of criminal justice system, what's called an indeterminate system with a parole board, to a determinate system that didn't have a parole board. And that's where we are right now. But I was facing life. And that's tough to face when you're only 23 years old. For my own decisions, I made bad decisions as a kid, and I made the decisions that put me in that predicament. But likewise, I would have to make my own decisions how to get out of that predicament with my dignity intact and with opportunities to prosper. Guess what? So do you if you're a justice-impacted person. You can't wait for other people to be the impetus that changes your life. Now, obviously, if you haven't been sentenced yet, you want to get the lowest sentence. If you're in prison, you want to work to transition into society at the soonest possible time. If you're on supervised release, you want to get your liberty back and be able to travel and just be a fully functioning citizen. The reality, as I experienced, though, is there are collateral consequences, ancillary consequences that come with a criminal charge. And every individual has to figure out, how am I going to triumph over those challenges? That's what I had to learn how to master when I was at the start of a lengthy prison sentence. And that's why today's daily discussion is about learning from leaders. Leaders help us grow, but only if we're willing to learn from them. Most leaders adhere to the principled path of living we describe in our journal course. They define success, they create plans, and they document those plans. They build their tools, tactics, and resources. Then they measure their progress regularly. We can learn from the ways that they executed their projects. Or we can choose to be a puppet and let other people pull the strings of our life. And when things don't go right, we can complain and say, oh, my lawyer didn't tell me that. Or, oh, the prosecutor did this and he should have done that. Or, oh, they shouldn't have hid this evidence. Or, oh, the prison system didn't have any rehabilitation. And all of that is fine, as long as you're willing to own what comes with it. But if you want to prosper, if you want to get the best possible outcome, then you've got to learn from leaders. And that's what today's lesson is all about. So let me turn to today's lesson. If you're listening on iTunes or YouTube, I do hope that you visit us at prisonprofessors.com so that you could follow along and see the messaging that we provide for free to any justice-impacted person. I grew up in Lake Forest Park, a small community on the north end of Lake Washington. By the time I graduated high school, some of the friends I had chosen were making bad decisions. As a result of the influence those people had over me, I started to make bad decisions. And within a few years, I would have to start climbing out from a lengthy prison term. By reading the story of Socrates, I started to think differently. I had to choose the leaders from whom I would learn. Rather than learning from people making bad decisions, I consciously learned from leaders that I wanted to emulate. Like people from all around the world, I admired Nelson Mandela. As I started to serve my sentence, he walked out after 27 years in prison. In my case, the sentence followed the bad decisions that I made to sell cocaine. With Nelson Mandela, the prison term followed the injustice of racist policies in South Africa. A biography on Mandela, A Long Walk to Freedom, taught me a great deal about coping with adversity. Similarly, I read Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. Nazi guards captured Dr. Frankl and his family. The guards transported them on a crowded train to a concentration camp, and they killed his family members as he stood by helplessly. Then the guards locked Dr. Frankl in the camp with expectations that he would serve the Nazi regime. He never knew whether he would live or die from one day to the next. Despite such horrific conditions, Dr. Frankl learned that he could create meaning by focusing on problems that were bigger than any one individual. Complaining could make a man weak, but Nelson Mandela and Dr. Viktor Frankl helped me to understand that we can empower ourselves by working to serve others. Despite being incarcerated for 27 years, Nelson Mandela emerged without bitterness or hatred. Instead, he devoted his life to improving his community. Similarly, Dr. Frankl left the horrific conditions of Nazi concentration camps to create the concept of logotherapy, which helped people to lead meaningful and contributing lives. Those men provided a model of excellence when it came to personal leadership. I learned a great deal from them. Like many other leaders, they showed us how to overcome our challenges. But as one artist taught me, it is one thing to know the way, it is another matter entirely to walk the way. We are all on our journey through life, and we all face struggles and challenges. The quarter century I served in prison was one part of the trip. Since my release in August of 2013, I have met many people who live in prisons of their own making. They may have never stepped foot inside an institution, but their mindset blocks them from building a more meaningful and fulfilling life. We are all tasked with charting our way through life's journey. When I started to find better leaders, I began to make better decisions. Those decisions opened new opportunities. I am convinced that anyone learns from good leaders, and for that reason, we should choose our leaders wisely. So here are your tasks. Name 3 leaders that you admire. What are the characteristics you admire about those leaders? What decisions did those leaders make along their journey? What lessons from those leaders can you apply to your life? Describe how decisions you made last week harmonize with the kinds of decisions those kinds of leaders make. And how would the leaders you've identified adjust to the circumstances you're in now? And our word of the day is emulate. Define emulate and use emulate in a sentence. This is a question of how badly you hate being in the criminal justice system. If you truly hate the criminal justice system and being immersed in it as I hated it, you are going to use every single day to learn from leaders, because leaders teach us patterns. They teach us ways of thinking. They teach us ways that we can empower ourselves regardless of what external forces do or don't do. I can't tell you how many times in prison I heard people tell me that the best way to serve time is to forget about the world outside and to focus on time inside. But the people delivering that message typically are individuals that continuously get recycled through the system. So they're learning to live in a correctional system, but they're not learning how to build a life of meaning and relevance and dignity when they come home. And that's what Prison Professors is all about. We're about helping people stay out of prison. We're about helping people get the best possible outcome regardless of what stage they're in the journey. But we provide these courses because we know a lot of people are locked in cells in jails and prisons across America, and they just don't have access to the tools that we create. They don't have, they don't have access to classrooms and teachers and colleges, but they do have access to the tools that we create. If you're watching this video, you're using one of the great tablet providers, probably the Adovo tablet, which has all of the Prison Professors courses on it. Or you may have some other platform that you're using, or we may have a relationship with your jail or your institution, and they're allowing us to bring these messages in. But we're doing this because we're asking you to be a part of this effort that we are creating to try and improve the culture of prisons across America. We're asking you to help by documenting your own pathway to succeed and sharing that with our team at Prison Professors so we can pass that along to other stakeholders, including prison administrators, legislators that pass laws, or citizens that sometimes don't fully understand the challenges you're going through and why it's in society's best interest to create mechanisms that will allow people to earn freedom. I am Michael Santos with Prison Professors, and I would never ask anyone to do anything that I didn't do while crossing through 9,500 days in prison. If you are going through our courses, I do hope that you have the ability to reach out to us, because although I can't respond to all the letters I receive from people in jails in prison America, I can use these to persuade legislators. I can say, hey, read how, well, like this fella right here, Jesse Cruz, who's in Greenville, Illinois, is changing his life. Or how this person, Nathan Krepter, in federal prison is changing his life. There's just so many of these people that are doing awesome things with their life, and I want to share it with leaders so they understand why we need to have these kinds of changes. My name is Michael Santos. I believe in everybody in jail and prison that can transform their life. I'm asking you to help me document that story. But if you're listening to this on YouTube or on iTunes, please subscribe to our channel and visit us at prisonprofessors.com so you can see how we're working to be the change we want to see in the world. My name is Michael Santos, and I believe in you.